Hello and welcome to Bath Fizz and Foam's YouTube channel. My name is Robin French Smith and today we are here to answer the age-old question that you may or may not have ever been curious about. What milk powder is best in your bath bomb? Is this something you've ever wondered about? You've ever been curious about this? Well, it's time to put all that curiosity aside, my dear friends. And let's just answer that today. So, as you can see, I am making 6 identical batches of bath bombs. I am following the basic recipe that we have on our website, which I will leave a link to after the video's over. You can click the little link in the video description and you can go find this free basic recipe for yourself. But what I have done is I have added 3 grams of SLSa in the first batch, and then in the remaining 5 batches I will be using different types of milk powder. So this first one is SLSa, and like I said, I just added 3 grams of SLSa to the recipe as it already stands. And then the second one is going to be non-fat milk. I decided to double the amount, so 6 grams of the non-fat milk, 6 grams of the buttermilk, and then of course as we go along 6 grams of each of the additional milks. And then I use the same amount of colorant for each of the bath bomb batches. This one now is whole milk powder, because I wanted to make sure that the test was perfectly unbiased as far as like color goes, because sometimes the different colors can show up better. Here we go with goat milk. Sometimes the different colors can show up better, look better in the tub. So I did them all yellow because I have a lot of yellow right now, because I did something stupid. But anyway, this one's coconut milk. So I wanted each of them to be the same color. So they're all going to be yellow. And the way I'm going to tell them apart is you see that each one has the different mold that I have already set in there. So that helps me know that like whatever mold I use for the SLSa, I think it's a Jason mask is going to be the SLSa one. That I know every time I see the SLSa shaped bath bombs, I know 100% that those are going to be made with the SLSa. So here's one of the things, as I go to test it, one of the things that I noticed was that, not to spoil it or anything for you, but it was actually very hard for me to tell the difference between the different milk powders, like the different qualities of them. I honestly felt like they were all really similar. So after this batch of testing that you see me making here, these were all made with Polysorbate 80. And after the last, Wednesday, when we kind of really saw like how important Polysorbate 80 is, I kind of had this epiphany where I realized that I really needed to do at least one round where I made this same exact recipe without Polysorbate 80. And so that is something that I ended up doing, and when I test them, you'll see that I test them back to back. So I test one with Polysorbate 80 in it, and then I test one without, so you can see how they both perform. Now, I personally always recommend using Polysorbate 80, even if you're using dyes, so for the second batch that I test with, I do end up using dyes, because if I used lakes, it wouldn't color the water correctly. But even if you do use dyes, I still recommend using Polysorbate 80, not only because you'll see in the testing phase like what beautiful foam it makes. It's just gorgeous, darling. But also, you still have oils in your bath bomb, and those are still floating on top of the water, even if you are using, even if you're using the dye, the oil is still going to float on top of the water, and that includes your fragrance oil, and that gets on skin and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just highly suggest it. But if you happen to not want to use Polysorbate 80, the test round will show you, what that looks like. Those bath bombs are ready. You want to test them? Let's go. Gonna test some bath bombs today. Gonna test some bath bombs today. Gonna test some bath bombs today. Hot. Let's test bath bombs. Here we are. Gonna test bath bombs. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I don't remember which of the bath bombs are what. So this is kind of like a blind reaction from me. I don't know. Okay, kids, let's get to testing. We're gonna start off with SLSa. And of course, like I said, the first round will be SLSa with Polysorbate 80. As you can see, she puts on a mighty fine show. SLSa, one of the most interesting things about using SLSa in your recipe is that it doesn't just create foam, lasting foam that kind of sits on top of the water like what you see there. It also helps to slow down how quickly a bath bomb fizzes out. So for all of these test bath bombs, the first round bath bombs, the ones with Polysorbate 80, they all fizzed out at around 2.5 minutes, which personally is a little bit slow for me. A little bit fast for me. I like for my bath bombs to last longer in the bathtub. I like to feel like it's more of an experience. But yeah, so this is one of the interesting things that that SLSa does. Now, look at this. Very, very interesting here. So this is a bath bomb made with SLSa, but without Polysorbate 80. So because I did dyes that were bloomed into the baking soda, I didn't need to include the Polysorbate 80. And instead, that is just the effect of SLSa in a bath bomb without the Polysorbate 80. And I think it's a very interesting show because you see there's actually a marked difference between the bath bomb made with Polysorbate 80 and SLSa and then bath bomb made without Polysorbate 80 and SLSa. That was one of the surprising kind of discoveries for me during this process. There's some stuff that I kind of like expected, but whenever you're testing, bath bombs and recipes and stuff like that, you should always be ready for your expectations to come out differently. Now we're gonna test the Buttermilk bath bomb. And obviously this first one is a Buttermilk bath bomb made with Polysorbate 80. So like I said, all of the first round bath bombs, they lasted about 2.5 minutes. But all of the second round bath bombs, with the exception of the SLSa, second round SLSa bath bomb, all of the second round bath bombs lasted less than a minute, or like right at 1.5 minutes. To me, it'd be very disappointing if my bath bomb lasted that long. I know that there are some people who like their bath bombs to be real quick and fizz out very, very fast, but for me, I would personally prefer to see it last a little bit longer. So that is one of the benefits of using SLSa that you would get over milk. So here we go. This is Buttermilk without Polysorbate 80. And as you can see, it does create some foam on top of the water. Now, it's kind of hard to tell because, I don't know if it's because I use yellow. It's just hard to tell. Like, oh my God, it's just blinding yellow. I'm sorry. I had to deal with it as I was editing the video. Just so much pee looking bath bomb water. But there is some foam that sits on top of the water. Buttermilk is what I use most commonly in my bath bombs. And the main reason for that is that I can buy it in bulk and it's pretty affordable for me. But as you can see, it would definitely benefit from the addition of Polysorbate 80. And I actually use milk powder and SLSa and Polysorbate 80. I use kind of all three in mine just because I like them in there. Obviously, you don't have to have them. But without it, that's what it would look like in a bath bomb if you didn't have any Polysorbate 80 in it and any other kind of surfactant at all. It does leave a little bit of tiny little bit of foam on top of the water. But it also doesn't have that creamy nature, that you find when it has the Polysorbate 80. This next one is non-fat milk. And here is the non-fat milk with Polysorbate 80. Now, I also commonly use non-fat milk because it's very, very cheap and very, very easy to find. I switched to Buttermilk during the beginning of COVID when it was harder to get milk powder from the grocery store, and I was having to order milk powder online. And so I found a company where I could order big old bags of buttermilk powder online for super cheap. And so I just started doing that, and I like it. It's fine. It works. So, and here we go with the non-fat milk in the bathtub. Now, personally, I feel like the non-fat milk would be my second choice. Of all the milk powders that we're going to go through, the non-fat milk would actually be my second choice. I currently am using the buttermilk, but non-fat milk is actually going to be my second choice. Buttermilk would be my third choice. So you'll see what my first choice would be. But she does make a lot of foam. I mean, there's a pretty good amount of foam on the top of that water for having no other surfactant in the mix. It does work pretty well, and it does sustain. It does stay on top of the water pretty well. So yeah, I think non-fat is a great choice if that's all you have access to. Like, it's a really good choice, personally. And honestly, it's probably going to be one of the lower cost milks that you're able to get your hands on. I think part of the reason that you get that like much better foam from the water when you use the Polysorbate 80, I don't think it really has much to do with the milk powder, the type of milk powder. I think mostly what you're getting there is that Polysorbate 80 is really activating the milk, and it's really creating that foam. And so I think just the combination of them is always going to be a better solution than just doing one or the other. Now we're going to go to whole milk. Whole milk is, I think, one of the most commonly recommended ones to use. I think a lot of people say, oh, you need the fat content. That higher fat content is what's going to create the foam on top of the water, which I don't really know why people think that, because fats and oils typically would dampen bubbles. Now, it doesn't really play out like that a lot of the times with bath bombs, but I don't know why a lot of people seem to think that like whole milk is the one to use. I've always personally preferred non-fat to whole milk even before I had access to the buttermilk. But you can see right here in the water, it does an okay job. I wouldn't say that it's like stellar. It does create a lot of bubbles, but I don't feel like they like hang on very well. In my opinion, they kind of like fizz out real quickly, or pop, I guess. They all fizz out real quickly, so it's kind of hard to tell. But to me, it just doesn't have like that same pizzazz, just doesn't have that same razzle dazzle as I feel like the non-fat milk has, but it's a good choice. I think that the takeaway from all of this is that, like, number one, I personally had a very hard time telling the difference between the milk powders in the bath bombs with the Polysorbate 80, and there's only one of all of the ones that we use without Polysorbate 80, there's only one that really disappoints me and lets me down. And so I think it's kind of an interesting thing. With the Polysorbate 80, it does fine. Without it, though, there's only one that really kind of makes me go, really? Well, I guess, right there was like a little bit of foam suspended on the water. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like, I don't feel like the difference is substantial enough, just personally. Here we go now with coconut milk powder, and we're gonna use the coconut milk powder with the Polysorbate 80. By the way, I mean to tell you guys, I will put links in the description to all of the molds that I use in the different suppliers. I was thinking of like cute molds for Halloween, so every time I saw that night, I thought of Monty Python and none shall pass.
None shall pass. What? None shall pass.
Was what I was thinking, how it would be cute for Halloween or stuff like that. So yeah, these were all kind of, this was my version of like as Halloween themed as I could get. And here we go with the coconut milk without the Polysorbate 80. And this is the only one where I just don't feel like it even gives anything. I don't feel like the milk powder adds anything really to this bath bomb. And in fact, I want to say it fizzled out in like under a minute. It was the fastest one to fizz out. And I should add that the bath bombs, the first round ones that are made with the Polysorbate 80, those are sped up about 500 times the speed. So, you know, if you want to do the math on that. But the round 2, with the exception of the SLSa round 2 bath bomb, those are all real time. So if you want to look at the timestamp and see, like, this is exactly how long this bath bomb took to fizz out. I want to say it's like right at a minute. It was significantly shorter than the other ones, and I think it had the least amount of anything.
Just a flesh wound.
Like, there's really nothing to write home about when it comes to that one. Now, when it was used with the Polysorbate 80, it gave a beautiful show. It had some really pretty foam in the water. It was still a little bit shorter fizz time than the others, but not significantly. So, you know, if you do want to make your bath bombs vegan, if that's something that's like a priority for you and you really want to make sure that they're vegan, go ahead and use the milk powder, but you are going to want to use that Polysorbate 80 because otherwise you're not really going to get anything from, you know, from the addition. And then this is goat's milk. This is my #1 pick, which I think is ironic because I have never used goat's milk powder in my bath bombs except to test them in this thing. But the goat's milk powder would be my #1. She'd be my numero uno gal. She'd be my #1 lady. You know what I'm saying? Because that foam is fantastico, even without Polysorbate 80. That is some very lovely foam. So yeah, I actually learned something myself. I mean, I learned that coconut powder really is not adding much to the foam. It's great for label appeal, and it's great for having that nice feel to the water. And then I also learned that goat milk powder, oh my God, she's a rock star. I think that if you are making bath bombs and you don't want to include any Polysorbate 80 and you would still like to have some foamy foam in your bath bomb and you're using dyes so that you don't need that Polysorbate 80, then yeah, I think that you couldn't go wrong with goat's milk or non-fat. Whoops, dropped a shampoo bottle. Second choice would be non-fat, and then my third choice would be buttermilk. So I think those are all great selections. Of course, I'm always going to choose SLSa over them all because I love it. I love it, baby. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this not so very funky what the Wednesday. It's okay, though. We don't have to all be all the time. You know, we can sometimes chill, baby. It's okay. But hey, you could come visit us at our website, which is bathfizzandfoam.com. You could come see our color studies, and you could learn to blend your own custom colors for bath bombs if you're interested in that. You could also come visit us on Facebook at Bath Fizz and Foam Bath Bomb and Bubble Bar Support Group. We are a community of friendly, kind, helpful makers. We would love to see you there. We'd love to support you in your journey, see your creations, and have you join us. Me, you, me, bath friends forever. You should come join us. You should also consider liking these videos because I don't work that hard on them, but yeah, I do. I work hard on these videos, you know, just to give you some little content for your day. So hey, if you want to take a second, you could like this video and then you could subscribe to it. So #1, that tells YouTube that I'm doing the damn thing, and then #2, YouTube will tell you when I put out new content. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely do that. I think that that's all that I have for you guys today. I know it's not, you know, the most interesting What the F Wednesday, but I hope that it helps you. As always, I hope that you become and that you stay forever a happy maker. And you do that by happy making. So happy making. Goodbye. I love you. Goodbye.
Oh, I see. Running away.